I'm here with Aditi Ayur from the great state of Colorado, but your path has been Colorado, Chicago. Tell us kind of your experience in getting to LECOM and maybe why you made that decision.
Okay, so I was a senior in high school when I first found out about the program. I found out through a friend, and I didn't really know what DO was or anything. And I looked into the program and into the affiliated schools, and I saw that a few of the schools on there I was interested to swim for, and so it worked out really well. There was one school that one of my the undergrad that I went to that my one of my friends from high school who I swam with also swam for that school. And so I ended up going there for undergrad through the LECOM program. And so that was my pathway into LECOM. So,
I think most high school students, if they're thinking they're going the medical school route, tend to think that they cannot do extracurricular activities, that their life kind of becomes medical school, if that makes sense. You have sort of a unique story. You weren't just there swimming for fun, you were actually competing with a college program. So kind of explain that mindset and then also, how difficult it was. You kind of mentioned your days, how they looked earlier. So kind of talk about that process because very unique story.
yeah, so I can't lie, it was definitely a little challenging. And I think for any pre-med student, no matter what program you're in, it's very difficult. But I think what was nice about LECOM was I wasn't super stressed about the application cycle.
Mhm.
And especially your junior year, that's when it's really big,
You're talking about junior year of college.
college. Yes, sorry,
Yes.
junior year of
No, you're
college.
good.
And that's when the application cycle is really big and everything. So that takes up a lot of your time. And I personally, I know that I wouldn't have been able to swim if I was, or I would have had to take a gap year or something. I wouldn't have been able to uh, juggle swimming with the medical school applications. But honestly, I loved swimming. It was just, even aside from the sport itself, it was just a good structure for me. I need structure. I thrive on, having waking up at a certain time, going to bed at a certain time, and, going to classes in between. I really liked, you know, having that structure.
Mhm.
And so, yes, it was painful, especially there's this time where they really, right before a big meet at a conference championship, at the end of the season, I remember I would just be so exhausted. I don't even know how I'd stay awake during classes and everything. But I think my grades were always the best during swim season because it was just a good structure for me. And that's
Mhm.
what I needed. I knew I had to get my homework done at a certain time. And when I was studying for the MCAT, I knew it, I had to stick to a schedule, for it as well in order to make my practices and to get a certain amount of sleep and everything. So it
And
was
so you were talking earlier about getting up at like 4:30 in the morning, swimming, and then even coming back later in the day. So kind of walk us through that on
yeah,
top of taking,
some of the classes.
yeah,
So it really depended on the day. So there were two practices. I think one was at 5:15 and then there was a later one at
5:15 a.m.
yeah, 5:15
Yes.
a.m. And then another one that was at 6:45. And so it just depended on your schedule. And also, I was a distance swimmer. And so team was pretty small. And so I think most of the distance practices were the early morning practices. So even if I didn't have 8 a.m. classes, I would still, most of the time, I was in the 5:15 practice. So yes, I would wake up really early and I need 8 hours of sleep. I was one of those. I was in bed at 9 p.m. in undergrad. I really needed and so I knew that I thrived with a good amount of sleep. And so I would make sure that I was getting that sleep. So I'd wake up at 4:30, 4:45, get ready to go to practice. And then I'd have practice in the morning. Most of the time I'd go shower and go straight to my classes because I feel most days I would have 8 a.m.s, but don't quote me on that. There was definitely some days that I would have 10 a.m.s or even afternoon classes. And so, and then I think at least 4 days a week we would have afternoon practices, whether it was lifting or swimming or whatever. So after classes, I would go in again for my afternoon practices. Some of my classes even went late. I would have labs. Sometimes I'd have labs till 7:30. So I'd
Wow.
go to practice and then I'd go into my labs. And so
Those are
yeah.
long days.
Yeah, they were long days, but it was I loved it. And I did pretty well. I mean, it's definitely did have its challenges. But
Plus travel on the weekends to meets.
yeah, travel on the weekends to meets and everything. So I just had to learn how to juggle and time manage, which is really important for medical school. So.
So I would say you sound like you had a very robust and well-rounded undergraduate experience. So um, I think kind of a unique experience, and you kind of mentioned too that maybe not having to worry your junior year about what your future held. Are you going to get into med school? And that's one of the advantages I see of the LECOM program, that students can kind of either take more challenging classes. There's a lot of great stories coming out of this today. So, but then you go to LECOM. So kind of talk about the LECOM experience and then kind of where you are in your placement right now.
Yeah. So
And which campus did you go to as far as LECOM?
yes, so I went to the Erie campus. I was LDP, like I mentioned before. I do really well in structure. So I needed to be sitting in a classroom from 8 a.m. to like 4 p.m. roughly. And so I really liked it. Honestly, it was a really good. I know like sometimes lectures can be a little bit boring and everything, but I really needed to be sitting in a classroom, like, because otherwise, if I know that if if I'm trying to study on my own, I won't get work done. So I knew like going in that I needed structure. And it was also nice. It was like 120 kids roughly in my pathway, and I was sitting on the aisle. So I would get quizzed a lot. The professors, they would always be standing next to me and quizzing me, and everyone knew too. Like everyone knew that like I was always getting asked questions. And honestly, it was really good for me now, because at first I was really nervous, like when they would ask me questions, especially in front of all of these like really smart kids in medical school. And I remember my face would turn bright red, and even if I knew the answer, I would blank because I was so stressed about it. But and I wish I could say that I answered all of the questions that I got asked, like, and I was a genius and knew all the answers and everything. But I'd say maybe like probably maximum 50% of the time I actually knew the answer. So I got very comfortable saying I don't know, and I think that's like a big learning lesson, like especially now when I'm in these rotations and everything, because if we knew all the answers, we wouldn't be in school. Like there was
Right.
no need to
Good
be
point.
doing
Yeah.
this. And so I got very comfortable saying I don't know. And even like now, like I get like I'm on surgery, and my preceptor has been grilling me, all of these questions about like anatomy, physiology, everything. And I say I don't know a lot, and it's like totally okay, because we're medical students, we're not going to know everything. And it's just nice because like in LECOM 2 and in at Mercy, like they make it an environment conducive for learning. Like I don't feel bad for saying I don't know. Like they know that I'm still learning, and they know that I want to learn. And so which is really awesome, because they're not making me feel bad for answering questions
Sort of another
wrong.
barrier reduced there.
Yeah, and everyone makes mistakes. We're not going to know everything. So it's been nice. Like I'm not horribly stressed, like going in, or even when I was by the end of it, like my 2 years at LECOM, like I would definitely say I don't know. I would say it very casually. It wouldn't be like my face is bright red. I was trembling, saying, "Oh, I have no idea what you're talking about." Be like, "Yeah, I don't know. Like, like? Please explain this to me."
Sure.
And same here at Mercy Jefferson, like, which is awesome. That's like how it should be. We should feel comfortable, asking like, "Okay, I don't know what this is. Can you please explain this to me?" So it's a great environment.
Great story.
Yeah.
It's also cool to see the well-rounded part of this as well. So thanks for sharing your story, and good luck to you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.